That was super unexpected. It was a blast to watch. I'm going to give you my spoiler-free thoughts on Cocaine Bear.
Beth, we should go.
So Cocaine Bear is, I would say, absolutely worthy of its name. It is constructed to feel like a 80s cult horror movie that you would be sitting in your basement with your best pals after you've rented it from Blockbuster. It has that campy cult horror feel that we all know and love from the golden era days of horror, just done with some brand new effects and a really cool, quirky cast. It's very bloody. There's a lot of gore, and it's a wild romp that's dark and surprisingly heartfelt at times. And I would say that Elizabeth Banks has definitely redeemed herself since the Charlie's Angels days. Now, yes, Cocaine Bear is based on a true story, and they definitely ran with the premise here, I would say, and invented some very cool and likable characters. Even the villain, Ray Liotta, is a wonderful, heartfelt send-off. Rest in peace, my friend. That was a blast to watch on the screen. What I love most about this movie, I think, is yes, it's a horror movie and it has the tropes of a slasher flick in the woods, just a bear instead of somebody with a knife. The actual characters in the film aren't just presented as lifeless and one-dimensional bodies for the bear to slaughter. There's some interesting characters, and in fact, one of my buddies who I went to see the movie with compared the likability of the characters and the quirkiness of the characters to a film like Napoleon Dynamite, and I kind of agree on a lot of different levels. Elizabeth Banks put together a very strong cast here, from the park rangers to the young kids who go in the woods and skip school for the day, to the mother that's being protective and trying to find her daughter, the gangsters that are looking for the cocaine, and also Ray Liotta. There's some really excellent scenes, not only in character development and funny interactions between them, but also how they interact with the bear being high on cocaine. The characters themselves are wildly funny. There's a ton of hilarious situations that happen throughout the film, in between the seriously intense scenes with the bear that is just relentlessly consuming cocaine and consuming its victims. You can't help but feel bad for the bear a lot of times throughout the film, and you kind of start to oddly root for it, in my opinion. I don't want to spoil what happens. I think this movie is definitely worth your time. It is a wild popcorn flick that, if you love campy B horror films that are done with high production, I know that sounds counterintuitive here, but Elizabeth Banks really put together something special. For the downsides, there's a couple issues with the pacing, in my opinion. There are a couple sections that I feel like could have been either sped up a little bit in between the action, but the overall story, the scenes where the bear encounters people in the woods and has an absolute blast with bloodbath and splattering things and torturing and killing its victims, you can clearly see that the decisions made, especially by the director, Elizabeth Banks, attention to detail in the pacing was definitely considered, and I think they did the best that they could with what they had. You know, you don't want to lean too far into just a murderous rampage bear with no character development and no humor, no comedy, but you also want to have some of the other things built in too, so that when you do have intense moments, you can feel that contrast. One of the other parts I loved about the movie too is the excellent synthwave score. It definitely feels like the 80s. You're in the woods, the workout gear that everybody's wearing, the quirkiness of all of the different characters. It definitely feels like you're somewhere in the 80s as the bear is romping through the woods and rampaging through its victims. I do love too how the team wrote Liotta's character, and it was a oddly sweet, even though he was the villain, send off for him, and I had a lot of fun with this movie. If you're looking for something to do this weekend, Cocaine Bear is absolutely a super fun time. There is some gore, there is some intense scenes of violence, but it's done in a lighthearted way that I think everyone in the theater that I went and saw this with was dying laughing the whole time, and I didn't want to leave my seat because every scene had little jokes and everyone in the theater was just having a great time with the film, and I think it's absolutely worth your time. Check it out this weekend and then come back and let me know what you think in the comments.